Happy Thursday, everybody, or at least what's left of it, because I am determined I am going to get this video done today. I actually started watching the show over again, so I could get my notes together around 12 o'clock this afternoon. And I cannot believe that my day just spun out of control and I'm just now getting to the video. But anyway, this is Tracy, and we're going to recap episode 11 of Queen Sugar, which was entitled All Good. So the show started off with Nova, and she's returning home, and it looks like it's nighttime. And I'm like, this is the first time I've had this thought about Nova's house, but I'm trying to figure out, is she like the only house in this whole like neighborhood? Like, you never see any other houses. And so I'm thinking, like, is this supposed to be like replica of those people that chose to stay in New Orleans and rebuild after Katrina? But whatever the situation is, Nova pulls up in that driveway and gets out of the car, and she sees somebody laying on her porch. And she just walks on up to the porch. I mean, she was kind of walking slow, but she still walked up there, and she realized that it was too sweet. And I kept thinking, I would have got back in my car and left. But then the more I thought about it, I'll probably be crazy like Nova and walk up there and see if I can figure out who it is and hope that, it wasn't some mass murderer or something. But anyway, Too Sweet is there, and he has heard on the streets that Nova is looking for him. And so he wanted to let her know that he was okay. And Nova goes to hug him. He tells her that, he's stinking, so don't come too close. But she says that she doesn't care. She's just happy to see him. And she lets him know that, he can stay the night and stay as long as he actually needs to stay. So we have Darla, and she's at Ralph Angel's house, and she's getting Blue dressed for school. And, once again, she has on that green polo shirt, I guess, from her job at the parking department. So I thought it was crazy that, Ralph Angel didn't have Blue dressed already, Darla had to get him dressed. So while they're talking, Blue lets Darla know that he's having trouble with one of his classmates. So Darla gets a stuffed teddy bear or something, and she's like showing Blue, how to fight this boy, basically telling him, don't let anybody bully you. And so then Ralph Angel walks in, and he's like, what's going on? And so she explained to him what's going on, and then he's like, oh no, we can't do that. And then next thing you know, he kind of like dives on the bed, and so the three of them are like rolling around on the bed, and they're laughing and playing, and it's like a little prelude to what was about to come. That Ralph Angel is really letting his guard down, and he's probably going to let Darla back into his life real soon. So Davis is still suspended from the team, and we learned that at the end of the season, he's decided to declare free agency, and he also made a large donation to the private school that Micah's trying to get into, in hopes that that will help let him get in. And so Micah, he's hopeful that he's finally going to get to go to school. But if he doesn't get into this school, Charlie really needs to get this boy into somebody's classroom somewhere. And so we also learned that Charlie is still Davis' agent, which I think is really interesting. And so there are teams, once he declared that he was going to be a free agent, there are teams that are calling Charlie to find out, if they can make a deal with him or not. So next we have Aunt Vi, and, she's making a lot of changes at the High Yellow Diner. And one of the things is being that they're going to open up, I think, on the weeknights and be more like a club, a dinner club or something like that. And so Clive comes in, he's looking around like, what are you doing? And so a delivery comes in with all this liquor, like liquor. And so Clive is like, wait a minute, my church members aren't going to like this. And I'm thinking to myself, your church members probably going to be the first ones through the door when they find out you got that alcohol up in there. So trust me, it's probably a good idea. And the people are, looking for somewhere to go where they can unwind. And so hopefully Aunt Vi's plan is a winner. Next we have Charlie, Nova, Ralph Angel, and Remy, and they're having a meeting to decide what to do about the crop. And Charlie is one of those people who found out that she'll burn down the whole house trying to kill a rat. So she is determined that she's not going to deal with the Landrys or the Boudreaux in order to get that sugarcane grind down. And even if she got to buy some trucks and travel 16 hours, she's found another company that's going to help them. And Remy brings up felt that it may be time for them to start thinking about taking out a bank loan, because what Charlie is proposing that they do is going to cost a lot of money. So as they're, having this discussion, Charlie lets everybody know that she's filed for divorce and that her lawyer has advised her not to touch any more of the money that her and Davis have in their joint bank account. And so everyone seems to be empathetic or sympathetic to what she's going through, and they hug her and everything, and to let her know that they're proud that she's finally made a decision. And so we know Remy is relieved because he's trying to get him some, and the quicker the better. So of course he supports her decision. So they get all enthralled in this deep, passionate kiss. And earlier in the show, when Charlie was telling Micah, that he might be getting into the school, Micah had told her that, he was getting ready to go and walk Miss Kiki to school. So now Micah is back, and he walks in and he catches the two of them, having this kiss, and Micah wasn't having it. He was very upset about the situation. And so, Charlie, she's all embarrassed and like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so Remy, he excuses himself from the situation. And Micah, he's having like a temper tantrum, but I'm thinking to myself, Charlie, you don't have to explain yourself to this boy. I mean, granted, I can understand where Micah's coming from, but the way Charlie reacted, I think she was kind of out of line and basically explained to Micah what's going on, but don't be all fearful of him and like you owe him any type of explanation. But then on the flip side, I'm thinking Micah probably is feeling kind of like I'm feeling, like they didn't even try to work things out, like they're totally missing the for better or for worse. And I'm trying to think, like, how many women had that situation actually. I know women who are married to broke men who wouldn't have left that quickly if their husband had been paying for prostitutes and all that stuff. So I really can't see somebody making, the kind of money that Davis make, and you're going to just walk away from all of that without trying to get counseling or anything like that. So I kind of see both sides of the coin, but Charlie, you don't owe Micah no explanation. So as Charlie, she's steady trying to apologize. So Micah gets flip mouth and he says something like, my dad's sleeping with hookers and now you're here kissing another man. And so I think he's just really done with all the silliness and the craziness that's going on. And I believe he walked out on Charlie while she was talking. So next we have Darla. She's dropping off Blue at school and pretty much serving notice to Miss Velez. And I know last week I said I figured out her name and it was Miss Ruiz, but it's not Ruiz. I went on the IMBD site and got the correct name, and it's Miss Velez. So anyway, Darla, she lets her know that she's Blue's mom and needs to be contacted, just like Ralph Angel and Aunt Vi are contacted when anything's going on with Blue. And so she shares with the teacher that Blue is being bullied by a boy named Jamal. And the teacher says that she doesn't have, any knowledge of that, but she'll keep an eye on the situation. And then subtly, she also lets Miss Velez know that she needs to focus more on those kids and not on her man. Just kidding, but that's probably what Darla wanted to say to the teacher after she referred to her as the babysitter. But once they got everything straightened out, Miss Velez let Darla know that, she's glad she's back in the picture and she will make sure, to keep her informed of everything. And so as Darla walked off, Miss Velez has this like really sad look on her face. But girl, you slow your roll. You lost out on that one, trying to be all nice and respectable, because you can't compete with people like Darla, because they know what they want and they go after it. They always got a plot and a plan. So she's working that plan now and moving you on out the way. So Charlie shows up at Nova's house after the fight with Micah, and she's crying on Nova's shoulder and explaining to her what's going on. And so somehow this tender sister moment turns into Nova wanting to sexually liberate Charlie after Charlie told her that Davis is the only man that she's ever been with in her life, that they've been together for 18 years. And so I guess they met, I don't know if she was in high school or fresh out of high school, but Davis the only one that's ever touched that. And so next thing I know, Nova goes and gets some candles and some wax and some other stuff. And so she's about to do some kind of voodoo session with Charlie, and got Charlie stretched out on the floor and nothing but her underwear and her bra. And I'm just sitting there saying, like, where they do this at? You know, and Charlie was trying to go along with it, but she was nervous and she was asking a whole bunch of questions, and Nova was telling her to be quiet. And so after a while, she finally got Charlie to buy into what she was doing, and Nova was doing some kind of chant and carrying on and rubbing her hands all back and forth and crossways and everything. And so I don't know if it's gonna be Remy or if it's who it's gonna be, but I think somebody's about to get them some Charlie Baudelaire West, because Nova has opened up that channel in her life. So Miss Velez, you know, she ends up having to call a parent conference with Blue's parents and Jamal's parents, because evidently they got in a fight on the playground. And so Darla gets there first, and when Ralph Angel walks in, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And so she says, "Oh, you know, the teacher called me and let me know what was going on." So at first, you know, Ralph Angel was looking kind of confused, like, "How'd she get your phone number?" But then I think he kind of was looking at the other couple, you know, that they was there, and it kind of made him feel good to have Darla there so they can look like, you know, they're intact family unit. But Miss Velez, I think she's over Darla and Ralph Angel, because she basically told both those parents that if they don't work it out and talk to their kids about bullying, that both kids are going to be suspended. So I'm thinking, like, before Darla showed up on the scene, she would have been calling Ralph Angel and trying to work things out and smooth things over. But now she don't give a damn, because her opportunity has passed with Ralph Angel. And I think the little boy has been picking on Blue, because Blue comes to school with that Barbie doll, because there was like a brief exchange, like the parents was like, Jamal's parents was looking down at Ralph Angel and Darla, like, you know, no wonder your child walking around here confused, and you need to get him some gender appropriate toys to play with. So don't know if that's going to squash this beef, or if we're going to see this come back later on in later episodes. So back at Nova's, and she and Too Sweet are outside talking, and so Too Sweet's really opening up to her about his fears about, you know, once he goes on trial, he hope he doesn't go to jail. And Nova's pretty much telling him that she doesn't think that they're ever going to bring him to trial, and that he pretty much needs to focus on his future. And if he wants to get an education and go to college, you know, anything he wants to do, he has the ability to do it if he just puts his mind to it. But he needs to stay focused and stay positive. And so I think he actually broke down and started crying, but, you know, hopefully Nova will be a positive influence on him. So we learned that Micah hasn't officially been accepted into the private school, but Davis's contribution at least got Charlie an invitation to a champagne brunch that the dean hosts every year. And so Aunt Violet comes in and lets her know that, you know, there's a lot of rich and powerful people that show up to this brunch. I guess is well known in the area. And so she also lets Charlie know that she heard that she had filed for divorce, and that she thought it was a good idea. And, you know, Charlie couldn't believe that Aunt Vi, you know, would be in agreement with her getting a divorce. But then Aunt Vi explains that, you know, she stayed with her husband, I think it's Jimmy somebody, but she stayed with him longer than she should have. And so she tells Charlie, you know, once you realize that a man has no respect for you, and that, you know, there's no future with this person, that it's best to go ahead and sever ties instead of dragging it out. And so then Charlie was like, okay, does that apply to Hollywood? And Aunt Vi was like, that doesn't apply to my man. My man is doing good. I'm talking about that no good joker, you know, that you were married to. And so, you know, Aunt Vi always has a double standard. You know, it could be the same situation, but, you know, her situation is always going to be a little different than everybody else's situation when she's giving out her advice. And so while they're talking, Micah shows up, and he is talking to Aunt Vi like Charlie isn't sitting there. He's letting her know that, I can't remember if he was going to see Kiki or what was going on with Micah, because, you know, he has a lot of free time since he's not in school. And so he told her when he gets back from whatever he was doing that he would stop by the Hyella and help her out, you know, with the decorations for the grand reopening that she was going to be hosting that next day. And so when Micah walks away, Aunt Vi's like, well, what was that all about? And so then Charlie's like, oh, well, he's giving me the silent treatment. And Aunt Vi took the words out of my mouth. She was like, well, sound to me like you need to give him an ass whooping treatment, because, you know, you ain't gonna let that little joker disrespect you like that. So before Charlie leaves for the brunch, she goes into her bedroom and she pulls out her wedding set, which you remember she keeps in that top drawer in a sock. And so she puts the wedding bands on. So I'm assuming that, you know, she's going to try and put on this air like her and Davis are still together for the benefit of the people at the school. And so she's on her way. Before she goes to the brunch, she needs to stop by Ralph Angel's. And so he's there in the kitchen with Blue, and they're cooking I think they were cooking breakfast, and then, you know, Blue was telling him that, you know, he wished that Darla could be there. And Ralph Angel was like, well, you know, I'm sure she has other things to do on a Saturday. So Blue's like, no, but, you know, I like it when all three of us together. And then, you know, Ralph Angel kind of changes the subject. And luckily for him, Charlie shows up. And so Charlie comes in the house and she's playing with Blue. And then Ralph Angel tells Blue, you know, go wash up. So remember earlier in the show, Remy had suggested that they take out a loan, and so they had the land surveyed, and Ralph Angel has the results of the survey that he wants to go over with Charlie before the loan officer shows up. And so basically, the 300 acres that they planted, the survey came back like they have exceptional land, the soil is great, the crop turned out great, and that they could net about $1.2 million on this year's crop. And that if they were to plant on the whole 800 acres, I guess in the next planting season, that it would be worth well over $4 million. And so as they're kind of like salivating over those numbers, they hear a car pull up outside and they think it's the loan officer, but no, it is Jacob Boudreaux. And so Jacob is there, you know, to ask them why haven't they responded to his offer. And so, you know, Ralph Angel's like, we're not selling y'all our land. And so, you know, Jacob's looking at him like, you know, who you think he's talking to? So he looks at Charlie, and so Charlie's like, you know, yeah, we're not going to sell. And so at the end of the day, what Mr. Boudreaux really came out there was to remind them that the Landrys and the Boudreaux own everything in St. Josephine, and that they're not going to get that crop harvested and grinded and sold without the help of, you know, their families, because they own the mills and they own everybody in the town. And so he lets them know that that their bank loan has been denied and that the loan officer isn't coming. And so that just pretty much made Charlie more determined that she's going to beat them at their own game. And so I think Jacob may have caused Charlie to draw that proverbial line in the sand, and we're going to see who gets pulled over it first. So Charlie finally makes it to the champagne brunch, and she meets the owner of the New Orleans professional basketball team. And I think in real life they're called the Hornets, but on the show they were called the Stingers. And so basically Charlie is trying to border with the man, saying that if we can get Davis to sign with your team, you know, kind of like, will that get Micah into the school? And I'm thinking this must be one hell of a school, because Charlie is just determined that she's going to get Micah in that school no matter what it takes. And so the guy, you know, he's really surprised that Charlie and Davis are still together, you know, after the scandal and everything that happened. And so Charlie lets him know that she is the CEO of a business called Davis West. And she doesn't care if he's a gentleman or a gigolo, that, you know, her interest, she's protecting her interest. And if they want Davis on that team, then she can try and work it out. So I guess Davis is going to be coming back into the show in some kind of way. So I think that'll be exciting. And, you know, especially as far as, you know, the relationship with Remy and, you know, everything that's going on in that aspect. So remember, Aunt Vi was doing the grand opening for the High Yellow. So they're there, you know, the family's there helping her get everything set up, you know. And I thought it was interesting that, you know, Miss Darla was there and she was dressed up all nice. So I guess she's Ralph Angel's date. And then Nova shows up with Too Sweet. And, you know, those two, you know, at first I thought, you know, Nova was trying to be like a mother figure to Too Sweet. But there was kind of some interactions going on there that I'm thinking, I hope Nova doesn't fall for this boy, because I think he's only like 17 years old. But anyway, she walks up and she introduces Too Sweet to everybody except for Darla. Like, Darla wasn't standing there, but Nova was like smiling like, you know, like she liked Darla, but she just didn't introduce her. So maybe it was just an oversight. And so we see Aunt Vi is warming up to Darla being back in Ralph Angel's life, because she tells Blue, you know, let's go into the kitchen to get some soda pop. And then she stops and says, oh, and bring your mom also. So, okay, I guess we're going to have to just give in and welcome Darla back and hope for the best for her and Ralph Angel. So it's later on that night, and you know, Aunt Vi's grand opening is about to take place, and so everybody's there. I think everybody was there except for Charlie, you know, and they're helping her get set up. Oh, also Hollywood wasn't on this show because he's out on the rigs. And you guys tell me, is the rigs a boat, or is the rigs like he's driving a semi truck? Because I'd be getting things kind of confused. So Ralph Angel is explaining to Nova, you know, about Jacob Boudreaux coming through, and Nova pretty much says that, you know, they're gonna mess around and she's gonna put some roots on the family. So I thought that was crazy, but that's pretty much how the show ended. So this was a really lighthearted episode. Nothing bad happened, and you know, everybody was just vibing. There was no fighting between Charlie and Nova, and I think the really only bad thing that happened was the fight, you know, Micah, when he was having his little temper tantrum and smelling himself. But, you know, by the end of the night, you know, he had mellowed out. But a couple of things, and then I'll be done. Where is Roberta? Remember the little hot and fancy waitress from the restaurant? She wasn't there when they had the grand opening, because when Darla and Ralph Angel, you know, there was a scene where they were slow dancing. I kept waiting for Roberta to jump out and, you know, make some little remark or come cut in and, you know, take Ralph Angel away from Darla. But then I realized when I was rewatching the episode that Roberta wasn't there. So I'm wondering if Aunt Vi fired Roberta for flirting with her man. And then the other thing, Charlie showed up after the party started, so it was dark outside, and I'm thinking she was still dressed the same way she was at that brunch. And I'm like, okay, did the brunch last all day? Because when I think of brunch, I'm thinking like 11, 12 o'clock. So, but anyway, hey, well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the recap, and leave your comments below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, take care and do something new this weekend. Bye-bye.